coming out to Skylight Books this evening. Yay! Before we begin, I have just a couple of things to announce. First of all, I'm thinking of you, and I don't want you to be embarrassed, so please do silence your cell phone right now. And second of all, we have all sorts of events multiple times a week. Tomorrow we have Chuck Klosterman, and wow, it's going to be a great show. He's a great reader and a lot of fun. Next Thursday we have Moby, and in September we have Jonathan Safran Foer. So we've got a lot of big events coming up, but check us out online. We've got multiple ones every single week. Today, of course, we are so excited to have Mark Z. Danielewski out with episode 3 in the multi-volume novel The Familiar. And spoiler alert, I was checking out his Twitter. Volume 4 is already written. So I'll see you guys back here, same place, same time next year. I love to brag about Los Angeles, LA Lit in particular, and Mark Danielewski is such a special writer, an LA guy who really embraces his fans, and I feel like captures this amazing spirit of possibility in LA. He's been nominated for the National Book Award, winner of the Young Lion Award, beloved by his readers, and before I forget, we also have, we found an extra stock of hardcover of Only Revolutions for only $6. Which I had up here to remind you, but the new book has gotten wonderfully well reviewed. It has been called rare, new, revealing, apocalyptic, beautifully rendered, painfully sad, dazzling, rollicking, ambitious, complicated, funny, moving, sexy, and beautifully told. Let's please give him a warm round of applause.
Standing outside, I was pretty convinced that this was going to be like a sweat lodge. We could commit ourselves to like 8 hours and get someplace very strange. So, even though there are potentially 27 of these volumes, it's always a kind of breathtaking, as a breath-stealing moment for me to come out for the first time and sort of hear how a book lives when it's spoken. And this isn't the end of the tour where I've done it a dozen times, so it's going to be an experience for all of us. Experience is such a tricky word, right? What does that mean? That can be a really bad experience, but we'll get there. So I thought I'd start with something from House of Leaves. May I? It was funny that I was writing this in the 80s and 90s, and 16 years ago it came out. So I thought I'd read a little from the back, Zampano's notes. July 27th, 1991. Make no mistake, those who write long books have nothing to say. Of course, those who write short books have even less to say. August 7th, 1992. How did I end up here? I know, of course, I'm referring to the itinerary I followed. But that hardly helps me understand the whys any better. I still walk out into that dusty courtyard and stand amazed. Amazed that I should have ended up stuck in such a shithole. Then I think to myself, not only did you end up here, you are going to die here. Of course, Hollywood is the land of the blind, with churches for the blind, so in my case it makes certain sense. You think I am bitter about being here, yes? You think I am bitter about this grave I live in and that bed of weeds I scratch around it? You think I am bitter about dying? You know nothing about bitterness, because you know nothing about love. Get out, get out. No, stay. Please stay. Let us read something. Forget everything I just said. It's not so bad. I'm just old and you know a good deal about love, and I would like to think I know something more because of my age. Let us read something. So this is also kind of dance, right? Because I have to read parts that aren't going to give away things. So please follow. This is a Xanther chapter entitled Hyperion. My being can never be washed away. Lone Wolf and Cub, Volume 3. Most dads, when they get a day off to spend with their 11-year-old kid, especially when it's like August and not far away from the kid's birthday, which is like in September, they go straight to Anaheim for Mickey or the Magic Mountain for X2, or at least the ArcLight for a Pixar flick, or at the very, very least, they go to a mall. Dove had taken Xanther to a sewage treatment plant. He was on some kind of recruitment training assignment at Fort Irwin, near Barstow, and he drove like 3 hours to pick up Xanther at 7 a.m. Though for Dove, getting up at 4 a.m. was pretty much like sleeping in. Even before she climbed into his Jeep, the questions started pouring out. Who was Irwin? Did Fort mean like ones in John Wayne movies they'd watched together? Did the Mojave Desert have sand dunes? And what's a brigade combat team, or even just a brigade? And how does a division mean a bigger thing if its name means divide? And what had Dove done so far? Like yesterday, was he outside the fort on the sand dunes shooting things? To which Dove chuckled and shook his head, and it took Xanther the rest of the drive to figure out that he'd gone to the dentist. Xanther didn't like going to the dentist. You know why we floss, kiddo? Dove asked. To get the gunk out? To disrupt the colonies. Colonies? What's called plaque, sticky stuff that builds up and attacks our teeth. Now trust me when I tell you, young lady, teeth are something you want to take care of. They're these rare white things that give us pleasure throughout our life and give us bite. Our inheritance, our means of survival, our right to rule. Their enamel is the front line, and that line needs to be won every day. Dove's friend Ralph Chironi, Char, had orchestrated the tour. He was, as he explained, a wastewater operator, grade 3 solids. He'd worked at the Hyperion treatment plant for the past 2 years, and he was pretty excited about the place. More so when Dove started firing out his own questions, and boy, did he have a lot. Getting Xanther wondering if maybe she got a question song from him. Dove didn't stop. Everything from gallons per day, 340 million. That'll fill up the Rose Bowl 3.5 times, Char had answered proudly. And we can still handle 900 million gallons if it's storm time. To service area. Whatever's uphill from us, Venice, Santa Monica, Culver City, Beverly Hills, El Segundo, Glendale, celebrities, they flush their toilets, we get it. To odor treatment, shock dosing like, huh? To manhole cover pick holes, the maze sewer systems, primary treatment versus secondary treatment, Archimedes screw pumps versus waste centrifuges, to chemical agents versus filtration options, to the use of chemicals, ferric and ferrous chloride, as a settling agent. Is that right? Settling? Verbatim. Char pointed out the on-site cryogenics. See the ice on those pipes? Sometimes negative 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And the 5-mile outflow, 180 feet down on the sea floor. Dove asked about biodiversity and ecological dead zones. He asked about sludge reduction, thermoclines, heavy metals, and turbidity. How is she remembering all this so perfectly? Xanther wore a hard hat to protect her head, more like from all the information than from anything falling. She also had to put on a hairnet. Head lice possibilities, Char explained. Some kids we take through here, you know, from some schools, the fact about that, the lice, but also the questions Char made out of some of the schools, like Belvedere Middle School. Thomas Starr Kane was alive in her head as they reached the clarifying tanks. There were 36 in all. Char paused by final clarifier 5E. Another 16-foot deep circular tank with clear water running over metal teeth before being sluiced over to pumps that took it all out to sea, 5 miles out. One gull perched curiously in the center. We're going backwards here at your dad's request. Next up came a first-hand view of the enormous concrete underworks, a labyrinth dense and hollow lined with pipes. Xanther lost count of the stairs down. Check this out, Char said, pointing back at a concrete hallway that seemed endless. You're looking at 2/3 of a mile straight. Hyperion is the biggest treatment plant west of the Mississippi, 144 acres. They filmed Logan's Run down here, Planet of the Apes, Star Trek, but that's been disallowed since 9/11. No pictures, please. The digesters came next. Talk about strange. 20 huge eggs suspended underground above concrete cups, 4 stories underground, but they can withstand an 8.5 earthquake, 2.5 million gallon biosolid capacity, 128 degrees Fahrenheit. Anaerobic bacterial processes take about 3 weeks to destroy, dyslexic, I guess destroy the pathogens. And the resultant methane that we pipe to the scattergood plant next door helps recover 80% of our energy. We're nearly self-sufficient, said Char. They took the elevator to W. That's for walkway, or wow, or way up here, Char said, smiling at Xanther. Even if it was a fleeting thing, disconcerted by some whatever Xanther could never guess. Char looked around a lot, like at some old netting near a stairwell, because birds flew down into the labyrinth below to build nests. Happy nests. Can't keep nature out. Or at some orange pipes for flaring off the excess gas, steam silver, effluent is blue. Or toward a grassy dune place fenced off by the sea where shades of sky flitted and settled, the blue butterfly preserve. Maybe Char just needed something to distract him from the smell, which Xanther had noticed kept getting worse and worse. Those air scrubbers, he pointed out proudly, hardly helped, no matter their bleach, caustic, and carbon. Xanther soon had the sleeve of her shirt pressed over her nose and mouth. Not that it helped much. By the loading dock, it was useless. Xanther even tried squeezing her nose through her shirt. Class A biosolids around the clock. Trucks coming and going. That one there, 79,000 pounds gross. Gross was right. Gross, black, steaming stuff getting shipped north to some farm in Curry County. Nothing, though, compared to the headworks. Even Dove pinched his mouth tight. Xanther thought she might throw up. Once Dove had told her a story about a dog that wouldn't stop puking. Staff Sergeant Rensley, through the blunt instrument of his voice alone, trained that dog to keep the puke in his mouth and swallow it. Xanther had been 7 at the time when they were living in Athens, Georgia, and she was wetting the bed. The wetting stopped, though never the seizures. No matter how hard Xanther tried to swallow those. Anyway, she wasn't a dog. And besides, if Xanther had thrown up at that moment, she wouldn't have swallowed anything. Xanther would have aimed and not just splashed Dove's shoes, more like chest high, direct hit. Char didn't look so comfortable either, and he worked there, down in this big gray pillar of a building. He seemed even more distracted, eyes dancing everywhere as he mumbled on about more sluice gates, the 8 blue bar screens, curiously numbered 2 to 9, pointing out to the halogen-y orange glow of the place where the mechanical teeth dragged out rags, tampons, plastic wrapping, and all the yickety-yak, don't talk back crap. Slats of slanted metal, drooling brown refuse, biosolids, not shit. Biosolids, not shit, Char kept mumbling, as he led them around to the other side, past a pipe labeled foul air, to a hole in the concrete slab where all the dark water flowed. Just arriving, still untouched, raw sewage. Where it all begins, where we should have started this tour, Char sighed, checking his phone, his shoelaces, his watch, phone again, some greedy fly buzzing their ears. Muscles in Dove's jaw, big muscles too, began to flex. And then the part that Xanther's mom has always hated, what stands for those 2 silver bars that stand for captain, snapped sharply into view. Why the hell do you keep jerking your head around like that? Dove barked. Sorry, Captain. ADD, I guess. What's that? Attention deficit disorder. That's something diagnosed? No, you hear about it, though, online, the news. It means a short attention span. Char nodded, trying to smile. Like I like to channel surf. It drives my wife crazy. That's poppycock. You ain't got no disorder. You just got afraid somehow. Wow, did Char sag then, like a poked balloon too sad to pop. Talk about how badly he wanted to look around then, but he didn't. ADD's just a fancy name for scaredy cat, Dove continued. Trying to see what's coming after you, or trying to not see what's coming after you. Private First Class Chironi, I know you better than that. You're no fraidy K. Get back in your skin. Look steady. Walk ready. Yes, sir. Later, when Dove stepped inside into a restroom, Char had whispered to Xanther, I actually am a scaredy cat, but I'd do anything for him. That means for you, too. Kind of weird. Char had even looked grateful after Dove got surly. Relaxed, too. And he definitely didn't fidget as much. But before that, back by the hole, Dove had squatted down and turned all his focus on Xanther. Weird as well. Because she also began smiling again. Her strength, which she hadn't even realized had slipped away, returned. All thoughts of revenge vomit vanishing. The smell, too. Xanther dropped her shirt sleeve from her face. You're not afraid either, kiddo. Stare a thing in the eye, know it, and let it know you know it too before you let it go. You're a mud. Don't forget. Xanther nearly shouted, yes, sir, jubilantly, too. Instead, she did something she's only managed a few times in her life. She looked straight back at those flint eyes and didn't stop looking until Dove blinked and even looked away. Had he been afraid? Well, he sure was smiling, winking then and softening fast, before nodding one last time with the sickening flow running beneath them a few feet away. Awful, kiddo, isn't it? And by all measures of decency, we shouldn't be here. We should be at Disneyland or stuffing buttered popcorn in our yaps. But I don't get to see you so much, what with my line of work, where I go, what I'm meant for, what Char here had the smarts and courage to get out. Dove looked at his friend. I mean that, Char. You served honorably. I'm proud to have called you one of my men, before returning to Xanther. So, kiddo, I don't want to waste what few hours we have together pretending the world's some ride with guardrails. I want to respect your time, even though you're 10 or 11, even though you might not get this now, but maybe will later. Actually, this is where she dropped her sleeve. So I want to tell you something I know to be true, tell you something that shapes what I do. And it's not particularly sweet, and some might even say it's a little cruel. If less distracted, Char was back to looking uneasy. There's a lot of talk about unity and oneness, especially that Buddhist bullcrappy, which you'll come across soon enough, as well as other hippie garbage your mom likes to think she believes in. Anwar, too. Heck, don't get me wrong. I'd like to believe it, too. But the way the world works, that's not what I see. That's not what I know. I've been to China, India, I've walked their roads of enlightenment, but all I saw was disease, destitution, and delusion, and a total disregard for the individual, a regard that makes this country we live in the best there is, a light on the hill, a miracle to the world. So I brought you here this morning to show you unity, oneness, a mix of everything, from the purest water to the foulest excretion the mind can imagine, a population's salivas, defecations, urinations, blood, vomit, and tears, dead rats, dead birds, garbage disposal pulp, drug deals gone wrong, body parts, solvents, things as benign as newspapers and cotton swabs, up to perfectly fine, unconsumed food. Probably perfumes too, expensive perfumes. You name it, some of it's in here. And what does it make? That's right, kiddo, this. Not so pretty, huh? This is a world without boundaries. This is what happens when there are no divisions. Look at it, Xanther. Breathe it in. Never forget. This is what you get when there is no law. This is what you get when the teeth lose. I think if Yeats is right that when we argue with others, it's rhetoric, and when we argue with ourselves, it becomes poetry, then I think when we're arguing with ourselves, with others, that's what literature does. And the point is that we could hear voices that we don't always agree with, but they could still be as impassioned about, about the world that they see. And those of you who started on this adventure realize that the Familiar is composed of mainly 9 characters, and that each chapter is their voice. It's their point of view, and how they harmonize or jangle with one another is kind of the point. So for this last little bit here, I'm going to read from a chapter by Esther, Xanther's mom. And she's attempting to make amends to her daughter. I won't tell you why. And so she's taken her on a field trip to a place north in the 5 that houses wild animals that are used in Hollywood. Seeing that the second big cage holds only dogs, Astaire asks Cashel to direct her toward a restroom. But on her way there, Astaire for a moment doubts the way, fears she will have to make do off to the side, squatting behind some tarantula-owned rock, until she spots across a road and down some steps, just as Cashel promised, the small house. The door's unlocked, no one's in. A gloomy place. Distressed shag maroon carpet disappears to die beneath heavily shellacked bookcases loaded with veterinarian books. The immediate kitchen is a narrow alley of stove and sink, counter-crowded with bottles of hydrogen peroxide and tubes of Neosporin, scissors too beside rolls of medical tape and wads of gauze, brown enough to keep Astaire from investigating further. On the wall is a critter gitter clock, time at the service of a lion and a hyena, with an elephant stampeding a second hand. The bathroom is just as overwrought, encrusted with dirt, which Astaire determines with a fingernail is no such thing, unless years of hardening have produced this current dark epoxy. Everything else is leopard. Leopard wallpaper, leopard towels, leopard candles, and even a leopard toilet seat. Astaire hovers. She also never nears the sink, those smeared faucets. A tarantula-infested rock would have been better. The only thing she touches on her way out is the light switch. Leopard. Is this where Abigail revels in her sweet sweat semen-soaked entanglements? Astaire wants to gag. She's nowhere close to gagging. What could have possessed Abigail to have even crossed the threshold? Was she really this lonely? Astaire doesn't even realize how tight her chest has gotten, like a man's fist, she imagines, until she steps outside. Something about the dinginess offends her. Astaire isn't even thinking of the jeans and boxers huffed over the hair-matted sofa, or the muddy boots on the coffee table. She's thinking about all of it. The stink, for sure. She sneezes now, twice more. Her throat itches, eyes too. Allergies? Still better than the way she felt inside, flushed. Envious? Something's at her feet. Can she even call it a cat? What a grizzled thing. Gray with just a glint of green in one eye. The other eye is marble white. Ick. The ear above the ick is no more than a hole surrounded by spidery threads of flesh. The whole left side is nothing more than a few tufts of ashen hair, except where there is no hair at all. A substantial trench digs alongside the spine, through the ribs and down into the rear flank, rendering a back leg pretty useless. The tail is just gone. Nonetheless, this tortured thing rubs against Astaire's ankle, even after she recoils. Its mew, or is it a purr, a harsh grate of improbable survival, only stops when nearby, very nearby, just up the hill, crowned in brush, something else unleashes its thunder. Astaire feels gripped by the bones, the teeth. What the fuck was that? What Astaire has every intention of asking Cashel as she's letting herself through the big gate, only to freeze at the sight of Gus and Vito and Juno frozen before that last big cage. Something about that last cage now beginning to dawn on Astaire, along with, where is Cashel? Where is Xanther? Dark shapes moving inside, way bigger than dogs. Not dogs at all. Astaire is sprinting, breath quickening, already breathing way too hard, until she's not even breathing. Another fist in her chest, this one a much different kind, as Astaire reaches the fencing to discover yellow eyes and a swirl of black fur and teeth clicking in low guttural growls. Wolves, 5 of them, and all circling frantically and shaking their heads repeatedly and lunging out suddenly to snap before withdrawing just as fast to continue circling. And the center of their attention, the object of these attacks, her baby girl, sitting cross-legged alone, until adrenaline sharpens Astaire's perceptions. Cashel's in there too, with a baton, but cornered by the biggest wolf. No, not the biggest. The biggest has just clamped its jaws on her daughter's arm, twisting to rip it away, rip it off, tear Xanther apart. "Mom!" Xanther cries. which is when everything goes messy. Adrenaline place, gushing for nowhere now, against conflicting sights and tones. Saliva returns to Esther's mouth, the beating in her chest slows as her body starts to relax, even if her mind persists in trying to command all of her to keep tensing, tense still more, do this something more, damn it. Mom, Xanther cries again, come in. Cashel looks just as happy. That second biggest wolf before her, a blur of charcoal and snow, has just rolled over, wanting something from Cashel to play with, while the biggest wolf, with Xanther, a blonde billow of heavy shoulders and bright eyes, continues to rip away at what's only a frayed blanket, Red, which Xanther playfully withholds until overpowered she lets go with a squeal. Aren't they amazing? They are, but they think she's more amazing. Cashel notices it too, especially when Xanther stands up. Immediately, Cashel's wolf, wheels around to rejoin the pack, fall in behind the blonde alpha who pays no mind to the rest, paying close attention only to every move Esther's 12-year-old makes. Only Xanther's oblivious, practically skipping across the cage to meet Esther at the gate. The blonde alpha drops his prized blanket to keep close to Xanther, too close, teeth nearly nicking those fragile heels. Even as the pack hangs back, it's still tuned to the flitting motion of Xanther's hands, her head bobbing and dancing knees, as if they soon might earn some anticipated reward. She's special, Cashel says later, after Xanther goes to find the bathroom. I'm partial, Esther responds, her practiced tone of neutrality in effect. You start together, Cashel continues in her tone, leaking with confession or just curiosity. That's the way you're supposed to start, because, they know me. And then you sit down so you're lower than them, or the same height, but not higher, which would make you maybe more leaderish and definitely more of an outsider. But when you're down low, then they treat you like part of the pack. And they come around and sniff you and even pull at that blanket I let your daughter hold. And then you stand up like I stood up to be leaderish, see, and I kind of moved away, which is when they usually all follow me. Except this time only Montana followed me, and it was like, Cashel's smile changes. It was like he wasn't really following, but more trying to separate me and, keep me away. Kind of like the way someone might do at a party, pull someone away so the rest can have a private conversation. Actually, now that I think about it, it was really weird. Esther's heart is at it again, adrenaline back too, except this time, instead of confusion, it's all about anger. Cashel has no clue. They just took to her, the young woman continues. Took to her. Did you see at the end how she got up and they all fell back like all at once? And Montana left me quick and like even Quasar, the alpha, healed behind her? I've worked with them for 3 years now and they never do that for me. Not even toys, Cashel whispers the last part. Not in that way. It's like they knew her. Like she was one of them, or all of them, but in charge, Cashel suddenly chuckles, loud too, abrasively. Man, I must be beat. It sounds like I'm calling your kid a werewolf. All Esther wants to do is beat Cashel. Even envisions a flurry of fists beating her into bruises and pus, though not with Esther's fists, but heavier and calloused and backed up by the brute strength and brute experience. Fists she knows too well, because they're doves. At least Esther should shout, "How dare you fucking take my 12-year-old daughter into a den of fucking wolves without my fucking permission, and dress her up like fucking Little Red Riding Hood? Are you fucking kidding me?" They're a lot like dogs, Esther says instead. The question has the desired effect. Confidence from expertise dispels Cachel's evident unease. They look like dogs, sure, but they're not. See the yellow eyes, the size, and the tails? They never lift the tails above their backside. They're smart too, way smarter than your average pooch. You have to trick them to do anything. They won't serve any man, ever. At least that's what Toys said. He should know. They only serve the pack. Esther still can't help but see dogs, even as she sees nothing close to dogs. Actually, the only thing Esther can see is red. Before Cashel leaves, still clueless, she again announces that Toys is only minutes away. Traffic. Xanther and Esther are welcome to hang out with the dogs or kick back in the mini barn office. With Xanther out of earshot, back by the monkeys, Cashel also asks, sotto voce too, that Astaire not mention, that thing with the wolves? That thing? There's supposed to be all this release of liability paperwork to fill out, and anyhow, you know your daughter, right? Astaire tries to crush every answer, only one between her teeth, grinding away like she so often tells Xanther not to do, though something in her expression still betrays her. Cashel's eyes widen, her youth suddenly too evident on her soft features. You do know I didn't take her in there, right? I was feeding havoc. She was talking to them, and then she just walked in. Later, long after Cashel's dirty white Corolla left in a specter of dust, what Astaire keeps turning over in her head is not this revelation, but a different warning. Xanther had returned from the bathroom slightly spooked. What's up the hill? Yeah, Cashel had tensed. Don't go up there, okay? Please don't. Thank you.